Let's go to Timothy from Lake Balboa and get Timothy's question for tonight. Thanks for holding on and calling in, Timothy.
Yeah, how's it going? Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir.
Same to you.
Thank you. Let's get your question started there. We have about 3 minutes before the top of our break, Timothy.
Okay, there's 3 verses in the Bible. I want to know if they're related. And one is Matthew 5:39. It says, "Do not resist an evil person." And then Romans 12:17, I think it is. It says, "Vengeance is mine," says the Lord. And then back to Matthew 10:16, it talks about being gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. I'm very curious to know if those kind of have the same thought behind it.
It's the ambiguous yes and no. The first one is dealing with the context of persecution for being a believer. It's not saying that so someone's going to rob you or beat you up or kill you, just let them do it. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying you don't have a right of self-defense. But in the context of a witness for Christ, we are to let whatever comes, come. So that's the immediate context. The Romans passage actually is dealing with, we don't take vengeance, but it doesn't mean the government doesn't. God has appointed government to bring about justice, not vengeance. It's sorry to get technical. It's called retributive view of justice. That we're not out for vengeance. Like, you can't bring somebody back who's been murdered, but you can bring about justice to make sure that person never murders anybody else. So the context there is society, and it even says God has ordained the magistrate to do this. She does not bear the sword in vain. And then the last one is all context. We're always to be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Doesn't mean I'm to be a nincompoop and let people take advantage of me, rip me off financially or physically or otherwise. But I am never to do that to them. I'm to be wise in how I deal with people. In other words, think of it, you can spot a rip-off artist, a con artist. Use this sense and discernment God has given you. Don't let them take advantage of you. And so, in that sense, it's related to the other two. But one's a personal context. Specifically, the first one is dealing with being persecuted for witnessing, for sharing the gospel, for being a Christian. The second one can refer to anything, but it's the government's role. The state has a role of God to bring about justice. And the third one is, yes, for all Christians at all times, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, you said.
All right, gentlemen, we're coming up to the top of our break. Timothy, go ahead, Timothy, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. What does the Bible say about conspiracy theories?
The what now?
Conspiracy theories. Does the Bible address conspiracy theories?
You know what? Why don't we do this? I'm going to take that question on the other side of the break. So, Timothy, I appreciate that. We're going to get that on the other side of the break. We'll deal with that on the other side. So hang in there with us, okay, brother?
Okay,
Thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to deal with that on the other side of the break. Conspiracy theory. I almost thinking of, was that one of our questions last week that I can't read my own writing? Probably not.
Conspiracy.
888-995-5552 is the number. 888-995-5552. The music you're about to hear in the background means we're coming up to the top of the hour break.
Thank you. A teen is publicly shaming her mother for attending last week's riot on Capitol Hill. 18-year-old Helena Duke took to Twitter to identify her mom, who is allegedly seen in a now viral video from last Wednesday night. In the footage, Duke says it's her mother, who tries to grab the phone of a uniformed police officer, then gets punched in the nose. Duke posted pictures of her mom side by side with the woman in the video as proof. In another tweet, she posted the caption, "Hi, Mom. Remember the time you told me I should not go to BLM protests because they could get violent? This you?" She says her mom told her that she was going out of town to see a doctor. Speaking about her mother, Duke told Newsweek, quote, "Her actions were appalling, and I did not think she could possibly stoop this low."
Oh, yes, that music lets you know that we are back. The Bible Information Brokers. My name is Darryl Fulton with Brian Allen, Professor Craig Hawkins, I affectionately call him PCH, and Eric, the one that will take your phone call and get your questions and get you live on the air with us with your questions so we can give you a biblical response. That number you can call Eric right now. We have some open lines. It's 888-995-5552. 888-995-5552. Everything else is Bible Info Brokers. Bible Info Brokers, if you want to send us a tweet, a question by way of .com on our website or Facebook. And if you're out there in Facebook land, please just check in, send your questions if you have one, and know that we want to deal with those things live right now with the broadcast. On the second half of the broadcast, another hour to go. So let's get back into the questions, gentlemen, and talk with Sue from...
Well, weren't we going to finish up on the other... We're going to finish up...
Did I forget something again?
Yeah, you did.
Look, wait, hold on, Sue.
Yeah.
Hold on, Sue.
Tim.
Oh, that's right. What? You know what? Man,
I think it's a conspiracy.
Well, you know what? Wait a minute, let me see. Oh, that's right. The man said it about this conspiracy theory. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a good hint, Craig. You take care of me as I grow older. So, yes, indeed, we want to deal with that question.
Craig, I'm a little worried about him.
Conspiracy theory. Does the Bible talk about that?
Yeah, well, no, they say as you get older, you lose two things. One is your memory, and the other one is...
You forgot. There it is. That's a good one. I like that. That's pretty good.
Good for you, Darryl.
That's a good one. Brian didn't quite pick it up. I'll explain to him after the show.
Don't even go there.
Get that bus ready. So, PCH and Brian, is there a conspiracy theory talked about in the Bible?
Well, actually there is, believe it or not. First of all, there's a basic principle, as evidenced, for example, by Proverbs 14:15. A simple man believes anything. A prudent man gives thought to his steps. In other words, here in chapter 14, verse 15, and many other verses, it says, don't believe everything you hear. In other words, look for evidence. And I would argue there is a thing called objective evidence that is independent and external to us and can validate it. I mean, God forbid, a crime happens, and hopefully the detectives are being fair and honest. If you investigate the crime, you look for the evidence that proves who done it. And you have to go with the evidence, not just your theory. I think so-and-so did it, or I want so-and-so to be guilty of it, or I don't like them, they're not a nice person. That doesn't mean they did it. They did the crime in question. It has to be based upon evidence.
You know,
I think, well, oh, go ahead, Brian.
No, Craig, our next segment on an apologetics for apologetics is objective evidence with Jesus and objective evidence with the apostles.
Yeah, indeed. The biblical writers, particularly in the New Testament, use a lot of legal language. The word martus, or the word martyr, actually was a legal term. Martus was a witness. To testify, we often may have made it into some type of subjective liver quiver. I trusted in Jesus, and here's what happened. But that's not what the word martyreo, martyria, the verb and noun respectively mean. It is to testify, is to give evidence of a claim for or against it. And it is to be evidenced by, pun intended, by objective evidence that can be verified or falsified. Right? If we find, God forbid, a corpse and we want to know, I mean, besides the fact how they got there, we would ask, how did they die? And you'd say there's at least the big four, right? It was either skullduggery, it was murder, foul play, it was an accident, it was suicide, or natural causes. And now you look at the evidence that substantiates which of the four would verify that. You don't just go, well, I feel or I think. God forbid, could you imagine someone takes you to court, a civil case is suing you, and then when the judge asks, well, okay, what's your evidence? They say, well, I feel that they ripped me off. I feel. And you may feel, but that doesn't prove it's true. What's the evidence? Show me how this has harmed you. You're asking the court to remedy this, to give you remedy. Well, what's the cause of action? What do they do against you? Eh? Now, we need to be careful. Now, I'm not saying all conspiracy theories are wrong. It's clearly the biblical view is there is a demonic conspiracy, even if earthly human beings don't have the brains to conspire to do bad things. There is a demonic realm, and it tells us very clearly in Ephesians 6 and otherwise that there are the wiles of the devil, and he is conspiring against God and therefore against Christians. There's an old saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Now, there are people, and I have to admit, I used to kind of write more of this off, who want to push Marxism in America, and radical socialism, communism. And you say, oh, that's just a bunch of hype. And I'd say, no, the evidence is overwhelming, and these people tell you such. So we can say it's just a conspiracy, but actually the communists, people like from China,
the leaders in Russia. This is their game plan, and they've been pretty clear about this. But let me lastly talk about, again, when we can go too far, when we're seeing things where they don't exist. So we need to be careful, and you want to know what's the evidence. And the evidence is not, well, you don't believe it, therefore you've gotten to you. You're obviously one of them. That's self-refuting. But listen to this, though. We got to be careful. Listen to God talking about that in the context of the occult. Actually goes on to talk about that, and I'm in chapter 8 of Isaiah. It goes on into the occult, and not to be involved in that, but it says, for example, starting verse 11 of Isaiah 8, the Lord spoke to me with his strong hand upon me, warning me not to follow the way of this people. He said, do not call conspiracy everything these people call conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread it. The Lord Almighty is the one you are to regard as holy. He is the one you are to fear. He is the one you are to dread. And he will be a sanctuary both for both houses of Israel, and so on and so forth. So my point is, here's a case where these people were all fearful of these given nations, and again, there's a time and a place to be wise and prudent. If I'm in a bad part of town, I don't really want to be using an ATM machine that's where I could easily be mugged. You want to be wise. But there are some people, they're so fearing X, Y, and Z. And God says, you want to know who to fear? Fear me. I'm in control. So we should be aware, and we should be aware of those who, whether individually or collectively, want to harm us or bring about things in America that we don't agree with. But I want to go back, I think, to a caller earlier, Gigi, and she's talking about, the problem is sin, and God's saying, yeah, exactly, don't worry just about human conspiracies, worry about the demonic conspiracies, but more than that, fear me, I'm in control, pray to me. I mean, we do too much being scared. We're too often just too scared, and we don't really trust God. We don't pray to him like we should, and we kind of just get fearful, and we're told to cast our anxieties upon God in 1 Peter 5, and the word marina there is this idea of being pulled in 1,000 directions. You're scattered. We say someone's scatterbrained. You're fearful of all these possible scenarios, and God says, look, I'm in control, fear me, don't buy every conspiracy theory, look to see what the evidence is, but always, above all, trust God.
Indeed. And part of our trust in God, I'll give the number out where people can call, and call Eric right now. He has some open lines at 888-995-5552. 888-995-5552. Everything else is Bible Info Brokers, at the Facebook page.